Hey everyone, what's happening? I'm Adam, this is Go To Outdoors, and I would love to welcome you back to another one. Today, it's chilly. It's a balmy 29 degrees out. Perfect day to make use of this new contraption right here. Now this, of course, is the smoker box that I was building in that episode right there, the last episode. Kind of brainstorming through it, getting it together, because I need to make some homemade kielbasa, and I make smoked meat, smoked sausages, and smoking pretty much anything else that I feel like doing, perhaps even some jerky. But it's a perfect day to be out here and doing this. I really can't complain at all. I'm excited. But today everything's slapped together, and I wanted to kind of get you an overview, a full overview with what it is. Give you a quick rundown right here, and I'm also going to be going through a list of materials and dimensions, officially dimensions that I have, scribbled out after I've gone through them and changed them up a few times, and I'll have that towards the end of the video here. But yeah, let's get into it. So obviously you'll see the top is cold, a little bit frostier actually. My heat from my hand just kind of knocked off part of the rime that formed last night. But anyway, I did add handles to the top, as you can see, so it makes it easier to move things back and forth when I'm doing my ventilation, because that's what I'm actually going to be doing. Again, this is just totally removable top. It's a top load smoker design, but the handles were an absolute necessity to try and get things just easier to manage, because I did also go with I mentioned in the last video I had a 1/2 inch plywood. This is actually a 3/4 inch plywood now, just because I wanted something a little bit more, sorry, that probably cut out what I was saying, just because I wanted something with a little bit more heft to kind of keep it from blowing away or moving too much when the wind kicks up, because it's inevitably going to kick up whenever I'm doing something outside. Murphy loves me. But the other changes I did make, I switched the interior latches that I was putting together, the little gate latches. I put them on the outside now, and I got bigger ones. So this one's just held in right now with a piece of crepe myrtle. The ones on the bottom and the other 3 are secured with carabiners at this point in time. Just again, I wanted some security. I also wanted them on the outside, so once they're actually together, you don't have to fuddle with anything inside, because having the inside latch in the bottom, once it's up, it made no sense after looking through it, and obviously you seeing me inside of the smoker box trying to finish the hardware last time. Yeah, that was a dumb idea, but it's fixed now. So it's on the outside. They are beefier. They are much beefier than they were before, and I did manage to get 4 full bolts or screws anchoring the sides of that one, and actually underneath here there is another set of 4 screws. So those are very, very secure now, which is what I wanted. So easy to pop together right now, easy to take apart. And yeah, let's slide this lid off and we get a look on the inside. And I wanted to make it so I could do all of this as a one-person job. So handles, again, make everything super easy. Okay, let's take a look down at the top. Okay, so we have the 48-inch by 1 1/4 inch yellow poplar dowel rods, and again, this is where I'm going to be hanging my sausage links, and I can also put a rack on top if I want to smoke something else. They are, again, in a notch that I cut on either side, and it just helps everything kind of sit in there and be a little bit more secure. On the sides, which of course is where the notched 2x4s are, those 2x4s, by the way, are 46. They were originally 46.5 inch. I had to cut them down a little bit to kind of joint everything together there in the corner, like you see. Let's get you a better view of that. So I managed it so everything fits together. It's just kind of sleeker. that way. But yeah, so those they were originally 46.5 inch 2x4 there. It is now 46 1/4, just because I had to cut them a little bit short. They weren't quite fitting together 100% right, so I modified that plan as I went along. The top row there, that is a 1x2. It's just a furring strip, and I use that on the sides at least to kind of seal up a little bit more. Got the same thing on this side we'll take a look at. So yeah, it's so when the lid is sitting up on here, it gives it a little extra, wiggle room, where it's still got a good seal on the top. The front and back, I have another 2x4. That one is, I want to say, a full 48 inch. Yeah, that's the full length of the sides. So the front and the back, I have a full 48 inch 2x4 at the top. The 2x4s here are only 44 1/4. I had to cut them a little bit shorter, obviously, because the way things were fitting together over there, there wasn't room if I left it full length. And at the bottom down there, I also have another 2x4. That one is also 44.5, 44 1/4. And on the sides there, that is another 2x4. That is 46 1/4. So top and bottom. So top and bottom, 46 1/4. Of course, the top one is notched. Top and bottom on the front and the back are 44 1/4. Just to articulate, or to help it articulate and kind of notch together all in one easy motion. Okay, so now obviously you can see down there, there's something at the bottom. That is part of the ducting system that I have, apart from the bricks that everything is sitting on, which I just had lying around. Let's come to the outside. So yes, I did raise it up a little bit. I have it up on some bricks at the time being, just to kind of level the box itself out. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it's angled enough for me. Make things level enough. Let's walk around to the side here. Oh, and at the bottom, yes, there is a gap right there. I'm going to be actually sealing that off with another piece of short plywood that's only about a foot tall that I have lying around. I'm going to cut that in half and seal those. The piping that's going in there, this is an 8-inch galvanized steel, just HVAC pipe. I just have the middle section here slip fit. Those were two 8-inch by 5-foot sections. And again, on the inside, that goes down to an 8-inch T that I actually did screw that into place. And on the other end, where it goes into the fire pit, I have an 8-inch. It's a 90-degree, but right now I have it canted, kind of come into the middle into where I'm going to be doing my fire. And I'm going to be probably digging that out a bit more, because as it sets, there's not really a lot of room at the bottom. And unfortunately, at this point, there's not a lot of angle going from the fire pit itself up to the smoke box. But that's something I'm still working through. I'm probably going to end up heading to the local big box store, just because I need to pick up something to at least cover a portion of my fire pit here. I don't like how that part turned out. But the box itself is done. I'm still working through everything else on the fly, but the box itself is done. So before I get going, what I'm actually going to do is I just have some old mulberry here. That was from a tree that fell here. I'm just going to use that, get something started, and try and season that box. Nothing's been burned in there before, and I don't want to just throw good meat in there before I've put any kind of smoke or heat or whatever through here. I just kind of want to knock off a little bit of the factory funk from the wood manufacturing process. Any resins that might be exposed, things like that. I'm not going to get into that stuff. It's scientific and boring, but it is actually what I went to school for, so I'm kind of a nerd about it. I want to make sure that that looks decent and that's cleared out a lot of the, science terms time. A bunch of the extractives, a bunch of the fumes, the resins, the glues. Make sure they're cooked off. Make sure there's no more, venting, off-gassing. So that's where I sit at this point in time. I'm going to slap this lid back on here, get a fire lit, and I'm going to go to the store, grab one or two more things. So the next time you see me out at this smoker, I'm going to have a couple more things tweaked up, and it will be finalized. Again, this is my first prototype. Is this how I'm going to keep it forever? Very likely not. Ideally, I'd like to build a permanent smokehouse because why not? But a portable solution at this point in time is just fine. And it's actually, I think it's going to work. I kind of wish at this point it was a little bit bigger. Just because even with a 48-inch cube, you know, this is a 48-inch cube. It's still not quite where I want it to be. But we're getting there. There's a woodpecker back there all of a sudden. But if I got to do another one and kind of slide everything together a bit better, that's what I'm going to do. But I'm kind of happy with how it turned out so far. Enough gabbing. Let's get back inside. I'll throw up a couple diagrams and I'll kind of explain how I built everything and how I designed it. And I will have a breakdown of measurements for you, just in case you want to use my design or tweak it for yourself. So let's head inside. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at these materials right here and just show you exactly what I used, what went into the build process that I had here. So starting off, the actual wood for the box itself. You're going to need a total of 5 pieces of 4 foot by 4 foot by 3/4 inch plywood, and that's going to be the 4 walls and the lid. After that, you're going to need 6 pieces of 2 by 4 by 96 inches, and that's going to be for the supports and things like that. And you're also going to need a couple scrap pieces of wood, or you could just add a couple pieces of wood to the initial build. I had these lying around, so I can't exactly say I know exactly what they're going to cost, because these were just, again, laying around in my stockpile that I have. And then, of course, was 1 additional 2x4, 1 additional 2x6, and a piece of scrap plywood. And, of course, the last thing you're going to need is going to be 6 dowel rods, and those were 1 1/4 inch by 48 inch. Again, I used poplar. You can use any kind of wood that you want, as long as I wouldn't recommend using uncovered pine. I wouldn't put meat directly on pine, just because you're probably going to get a little bit of the resin flavor if it gets too warm inside of your smoker. So if you do use pine, like I said, go ahead and wrap those dowels with like cling wrap, or actually I'd probably use foil. I wouldn't use cling wrap in anything that's going to be getting hot, too hot. So yeah, I would just wrap those in aluminum foil before you put your meat on top of those dowel rods. So after we get to the dowel rods, of course, now we're going to start looking at the hardware right here in the middle. So of course that hardware is going to include 4 heavy-duty strap hinges. You're going to need a total of 32 screws to actually fit all the holes that come in those strap hinges. And don't remember offhand exactly what those were, but yeah, they're listed right over here. And to go with those, you're going to need 28 number 10 by 1.5 inch panhead screws. And that's just going to help secure it, not go really too deep through anything. And the last thing I used, of course, was just 2 pieces of light duty drawer pulls that I used to make handles on the lid of the box itself. And of course, the final things you're going to need to get this kind of started, in addition to having a heat source, is going to be the ducting that you use to get the fire and smoke, or heat and smoke, from the fire pit into the smoker box itself. And you're going to start that with 2 pieces of 8-inch by 5 foot long galvanized steel HVAC. So that's what I used. You're also going to need, on one end, you're going to need 1 8-inch galvanized steel 90-degree elbow, and again, that elbow does kind of adjust to the angle a little bit. You're going to need 1 8-inch galvanized steel T, and that's going to be in the end again to spread the heat out inside of the box itself. And of course, you're going to need a couple screws. I use self-tapping sheet metal screws to actually kind of bolt everything together. Well, I bolted the 8-inch T to one of the sections of pipe, and then on the other section I have the 90-degree elbow that I screwed together. I did not screw the 2 pieces of 8-inch by 5 foot HVAC tubing together, because I wanted to be able to take them apart and help store them easier. And that pretty much does it for the materials that we're going to have here. It's a fairly simple build. I hope this is a good enough description and instructions on how I did it. Again, this was kind of an experiment. I designed everything on the fly, and I mean, it kind of worked out. But I tell you what, if you really want to see it work out, stay tuned. Look for the next episode, because in the next episode, I'm going to put that puppy to the test and see just how good it is at doing what I want it to do. I do have a really awesome recipe. It's an old family recipe that I'm going to be popping in there. That's going to be the first thing, and I can't wait. Believe me, I cannot wait. But that's all I got for you today. So like I always say, thanks again for watching. Make sure you find a reason to smile today, and I'll catch you in the next one.